Outlander fans, welcome back to Gold Derby for episode 4 of season 5 of your favourite show, Outlander, our favourite show, of course. I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor here at Gold Derby with Paula Sullivan-Licuria. Welcome back.
Hi.
We're here to talk about episode 4, The Company We Keep, written by Barbara Stepansky and directed by Jamie Payne. The episode synopsis goes as follows. Roger leads Jamie's militia to the rural trading post of Brownsville and finds himself embroiled in a bitter feud. Jamie and Claire arrive to find that Roger's rather unusual strategy may have cost them the loyalty of the militia. Claire learns that her modern medical advice has spread further than she intended. This was a good episode. There was a lot of regulator stuff, so that was slightly disappointing for me personally, but it was still good. And the Claire stuff, of course, is great. The more Caitriona Balfe on my screen, the better. I always think that's one of our rules. We've got it written down. This one was interesting. There was no teaser, straight into the opening credits.
That's true.
Wrong,
yeah.
But when we saw the episode through a screener, no teaser.
No teaser.
I think that is straight in.
No. I think because this particular episode was very different to the others in the fact that it was more about Roger. It's like that's where we led into, and I don't know. I found it very unnerving, disconcerting. Basically, I think maybe that's how they wanted you to feel. If this is how it airs, actually, because I think this, especially the whole first part of it, is about Roger feeling uncomfortable and disconcerted and out of his element, out of his depth.
Definitely.
And yeah, that's how I felt for this particular episode. And especially when Roger rides into Brownsville, you know, he's got Fergus by his side, which I think is a great pairing, by the way. I think they're kind of cute together. Like, they play off each other in that. I kind of like it. It's funny. And, you know, you can see, like, Richard Rankin does a great job. You can see it on Roger's face. He is out of his depth. He's got no idea. He's walking into Brownsville and there's guns pointed everywhere. He's got no clue what's happening. So he just jumps. Don't blame him. I'd probably go running for the hills if it was me. And like I've said before, don't forget this poor guy. He does not understand the thinking of these people. He is a scholar. He's studied at university. You know, he was raised by a minister. Guns and violence is not in Roger's DNA, like for most of these people, you know. And so he stumbles across this big feud that's happening, and it just so happens the bloke that's caused it all is riding behind him, Isaiah Morton. That name was mentioned. You could have had a drinking game with the name Isaiah Morton in this episode and been properly drunk. So that's how I felt about this episid. I would have liked to have joined them in their drinking.
We can't have everything. You know what's funny with Roger? He's definitely out of his element. But then he spends a whole sequence singing "Bonnie Laddie, Heathen Laddie." He's got a good bloody voice too, by the way, Richard Rankin. He should go on The Voice or.
I know, right?
He's got a good voice, but what was the point there?
Okay, so Roger goes on to explain, and don't forget, Richard can play a mean guitar.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy.
He's very talented. He can act, he can sing, can he dance?
I don't know. Maybe in the next episode we might see him dance.
Maybe if you get to interview him, you can ask him that one. Anyway, back to Roger. You are. Okay, so I kind of get where he was coming from. Now, Roger goes on to explain his logic behind it. Now, again, this is a man out of time, out of his element, right? So Roger could only work with what he had, which was his knowledge of history. And what man doesn't love a good drink? So, and then he explains to Jamie his whole point about the drinking and the Dutch courage and what the English did with it and what the Dutch did with it. And, you know, that they prevented some wars, or battles, I should say, by resolving their differences over a stiff drink. So that's what Roger was doing, and that's why he was singing, you know, and that's why everyone got drunk and was singing and dancing and having a good old time. So, yeah, that's where he was going with that. And, you know, my heart broke for Roger in that moment. That was all he had to work with. And all he wanted was Jamie's approval. And he just didn't get it. You could see he didn't get it. And I was like, oh, poor Roger. So, yeah, you do feel for him.
Let's talk about that Morton storyline. So the daughter is dishonoured because the other guy got to her first, so now she's a harlot, and I'm like, okay, cool story, bro. And then
did you miss that?
Actually, no, I didn't miss it, but I was like, okay, I follow what's going on. I was trying to just work out like what was the whole point. And then when Jamie turns up, he delivers the best line of this season so far when he says, "What disarray have you and your cock brought to this endeavour?" I laughed my head off. I thought that was the best line. Such good writing. Good job, writers. Jamie is the elder statesman, and he's in there and he's just like, what on earth have you done now? And
I know, that was pretty good.
The point. What was the point of all that storyline?
Well, okay, so Isaiah has fallen in love with with one of the girls from Brownsville, and they're all named Brown. So I forget her. I think he was calling her Allie. Anyway, so he's fallen in love with her. You know, he deflowers her. She thinks she's pregnant. And in doing that, the Browns have lost a big marriage alliance. They were trying to get her married off to a guy by the name of Ford, and was going to give him a tobacco plantation. And because she'd been now deflowered, he wanted nothing to do with her. Isaiah couldn't marry her because, surprise, surprise, he was already bloody married. Anyway, so there's the issue. So that's the whole disarray. And so the Browns were upset because they couldn't get the money they needed. It was an arranged marriage. They needed the money, and it was just the whole thing imploded. And that's why Roger tried to talk it out, because basically for Roger, his ability is to talk. We know Jamie can use his fists as well as his smarts. You know, Roger's not good with his fists, so he just used his smarts to try and save Isaiah Morton. And in doing that, some of the guys from the militia didn't agree with Roger and up and left, which was really disheartening, which added, not helpful, and compounded it more for Roger.
One job,
Basically, Roger had one job, was to get men for the militia, but it's not really Roger's fault. He was walking into this thing.
Nightmare scenario,
So
Speaking of things that you don't know, Claire, this is a good segue. Claire learns that one of her Dr. Rawlings recommends lists is circulated amongst the inhabitants of the Ridge and has been printed on one of the local newspapers, because she's in there with the baby and sees this newspaper and is like, oh my God, what on earth's happened here? So she sees now that things are starting to spread. That's pretty cool.
That was really cool. Like, obviously in a previous season, Jamie wanted to post an ad for men, like to drum up men for the militia. And Fergus just grabbed a piece of paper, which happened to be on the other side was the bit where Claire was writing the bit about Dr. Rawlings. Now, this has come from the fact that she had to deal with the death of her patient over something. I think he died of a burst appendix. I think that's what he died from. Ultimately, that's what caused it. And so she was having to deal with that. And so she just wanted to pass on some knowledge to the people she was just expecting it to go into the Ridge. She didn't expect Fergus to grab that piece of paper and write the ad on it and then have both sides printed in the Brownsville newspaper. But there it is. And so now she's getting circulated. And I kind of like that. I don't remember it happening in the book. Again, I could be wrong. Comment if you want to let me know where I can find it in my book. I'd be happy for any help. But I really liked that. That was kind of cool, you know, and here she is. She's found a home for the baby in Brownsville with a couple who I think have lost their own child. So, and they happily take her. And what were your thoughts on Jamie offering Claire to keep the baby because they didn't get a chance to raise Brianna or even Faith together? What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't know really what to think. I was surprised. I just didn't think he would go there. But I also thought it once again shows that Jamie is very emotionally intelligent. Is that even realistic for him to be that emotionally intelligent for that time period? I don't know. But he's a special guy. The fact that he considered that is actually, you know, quite amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was a really sweet scene. I don't remember it being in the book. Again, I've got to flick for it and find it. But I thought it was really, really sweet, you know, because he obviously regrets not being able, like, you know, he only got to raise, like, they had Faith, who they lost. Mm. He sent Claire back through the stones, and then she had Brianna, and then he had William, which he sort of half raised. So, yeah. And then if you want to count Fergus as an honorary son, which Jamie has, you know, Claire and Jamie, that's sort of like an important part of, you know, married life that they didn't get to do together. And it was kind of sweet, and you're right, very emotionally intelligent for a man of the period. But in saying that, the husband of the Browns girl who were taking the baby, it was even quite emotionally intelligent for him to accept this baby who is whose father was a slave and whose mother was a white woman.
Yeah, so that's why I think this show comes from definitely from a women's perspective, and I think maybe that's aspirational. It's things that we would like to see more men think of and do. Maybe, I don't know. That's just a thought. And my final thought with the episode is, if you're paying attention, you might have noticed that the costumes in this episode are really strong. I noticed it straight up. The soldiers, the shawls, the bodices, the accessories. Brianna looked incredible. The production values on this show are very high. We've talked about this so many times, not only with you but with Amanda back in the day, about how this show always does so well in costume awards, usually with the Guild and also with the Emmys. If this was going to be nominated, this show, I think this episode would be one of them. I think Terry Dressback should be really proud of the work done on this particular episode. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I think so. The costumes were beautiful in this episode. Obviously, I would prefer the wedding episode just because of the stitching detail on the wedding dress, and when you wear your finery, the detail and the flowers that get stitched onto it. But it was a very dark episode in regards to costumes. I love costumes, and I actually didn't even notice them in this particular episode. I did notice the one time we did cut away to Brianna, and I liked her. She was very well put together, the knitted shawl over her shoulders and the green dress. It was beautiful. It goes back to what we were saying in one of the previous episodes, our videos, that it's all very autumnal. I can't say that.
Well, it's hard to say, but it is. It's autumnal.
It's very green. It's very green. Yeah. There's a lot of brown. There's a bit of orange.
Can I just say also, that's actually very on trend. Not that I know what I'm talking about, but when I go out and about and see like clothing and fashion and stuff, I've noticed a lot of it at the moment seems to be in that color palette, and this show is exactly in that space at the moment too.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's
it is.
coincidental or not, but it is. Anyway,
I don't
that's
know.
just a thought.
But yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I like, I quite like them. They're very nice. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the question.
All right. Well, everybody, make sure you stick with us for more Outlander. We've got heaps more to come. Just click subscribe to watch all of our videos. Make sure you look at all of our galleries and articles, and make sure you say hi on Twitter. We want to see comments. We want to hear what you think, your feedback, good and bad. How can we improve this, or are you happy with what we're doing? In the meantime, we will see you next week for episode 5. Before you know it, this season will be over, so let's enjoy it while we can. See you all. See you next week.